G'day there, ladies and ladies. Welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Links, where we connect the dots with fairies. What I find fascinating is looking at the evolution line and just kinda questioning it. Does it make sense between the evolutions? How would the Pokemon's life alter from some drastic changes? Now, while there may be many Pokemon that should be questioned, there is a family that, at first glance, doesn't make sense. That family line is going to be the Abra line. So, let's get into it, shall we? Now, of course, we start with Abra. Duh. It's a little baby-looking creature with closed eyes and some armor. Strange enough, but let's continue. Now, Abra are most famous for their teleportation, quick to flee if it encounters anything hostile to it. I could talk about how teleport is a subset of spatial control, but this video isn't about it. Maybe another vid, but not for now. Overall, there is nothing particularly glaring about Abra's design, so let's check out the other end of the line, Alakazam. Now, Alakazam is definitely what I would call the logical extreme of Abra. The head gets more pronounced, still wearing the armor that Abra was wearing. Perhaps a major difference between them is that Alakazam has two spoons. I think overall Alakazam is also a pretty solid design. So now let's check the connecting link, shall we? What is this? Kadabra looks kind of out of place compared to the other two. For the most part, it seems to be a pretty seamless transition from Abra into Alakazam. Like, you have the majority of Kadabra's design being a mix of the younger form and older form. However, it has a star shape on its head and a weird stripe pattern on its abdomen, not to mention the massive tail, which is perhaps way too big. Also, Kadabra has one spoon. What is going on here? Before I continue, Kadabra was banned from the TCG for a long time due to copyright claims about similar appearance and inspiration from Yuri Geller. Hope I'm saying that correctly. But in any case, any talk about Kadabra is not to be taken as words about Yuri. With all that out of the way, Kadabra is an abomination! A tail of this size is no mere coincidence. As we know from my Slowpoke vid, Psychic type tails are important. Add in the fact that Alakazam is the only member of this line without a tail, and I think this leads to something interesting. You see, a gargantuan tail like Kadabra's is possibly from an unstable body. Something critically is wrong with Kadabra. It's constantly struggling to live as it is, and I will now explain why. You see, Abra spend a lot of their time being isolated from humans and Pokemon for safety reasons as it grows. Sleep is an important part of growth, and wouldn't you know it, the Pokedex agrees with me that Abra spends a lot of time sleeping. This sleep that Abra does is a way to enhance the psychic energy within its body. Whether it is drawing in life force energy or amplifying its organs for growth hormones, it is building up energy and fast. Too fast. Kadabra is the result of too much psychic energy. The tail, which helps store the energy, is so large as Kadabra's body is desperate to not exploit from the energy. The star and lines are also manifestations of this excess energy. Kadabra is overflowing with too much psychic energy. There is one part of its design though that does help it. The spoon. Now, there are twisted spoons in the Pokemon world that enhance the psychic type's power, but how do you think they came to be? Instead of enhancing Kadabra's power, this spoon could be a way to limit the psychic energy. Sort of like some weighted shoes to slow down. If the spoons get discarded, that's how you get twisted spoons. But back to Kadabra. So, one spoon is enough to slow down the growth. And yes, Kadabra is still growing. So, now we can get to the life cycle of Abra. Abra spends its days resting and teleporting away from danger. As it grows, it finds a small object that is decently durable. A strong stick, a spoon, a stress ball, you name it. As it evolves into Kadabra, the psychic energy that was within Abra starts to accelerate at a rapid pace, causing strange deformities in Kadabra's body. To limit the growth, psychic energy is channeled into the object it had found. This is fine for a while, but it doesn't last long. Pick up another object, such as a second spoon, does not stop the growth. There is only one option left. The tail must go. I will leave it up to your imagination, but let's just say that the tail is gone, and Kadabra is not looking the happiest. Hopefully Kadabra has some good objects that make the process less tedious or painful. Without the tail, the psychic energy will have a limit. A limit that is controlled by the objects like the new Pokemon Alakazam has. It will never mutate or lose control again. If Kadabra didn't lose its tail, it's hard to say what would happen, but either its mind or its body would be absent. For all intents and purposes, the Kadabra that was there would be dead. If you are wondering about any scar tissue from the removal of the tail, the movie cover is a forceful stimulation of cells that promotes replacement cell growth to essentially regenerate. Also, Mega Alakazam is overflowing with more energy, this time from the Mega Stone, and so it picks up more objects to help limit its power. Overall, I think this makes sense. This theory would technically mean that Kadabra is stronger than Alakazam in terms of psychic capabilities. However, it would have one of many adverse effects and would not be able to control its power for long. The armor part of its designs perhaps indicate a rivalry between another Pokemon. Who it is, we don't know. But I will say that if, for example, the object that Abra picks up is a sword, perhaps enough psychic energy would allow for a new Pokemon to be born. In any case, that's it for my theory. Does it make sense, or are there potholes? Have you got alternative ideas about Kadabra and its family? You can let me know down below. I would like to thank you for watching. I will see you later.